My name's Adam Hausmeyer and welcome back to my YouTube channel. The other day I was talking to one of my favorite YouTube creators about cameras, and he had gotten a Olympus EM5 Mark II and took it on vacation with him. And he has several complaints about it at the end of the video. He liked the performance of it and everything, but he did have a couple of complaints about it towards the end of his video. And I told him, hey, you should probably just get a Sony A64 or A6600 and call it a day. I think that would solve most of your complaints that you had with the Olympus camera. And in that comment, I told him, I was like, listen, don't think I'm a Sony fanboy or anything, because I'm not. I'm currently in the process of getting out of the Sony ecosystem and going to Canon. And he was like, why would you be getting out of Sony and going to Canon? My main complaint with Sony has been, I don't think that they'll ever put a flip out screen on a full frame camera. I have the A7 III here. It's been a great camera for me, and I like just about every aspect of it. But when I started doing these YouTube videos, I quickly realized that I was really wanting a camera with a flip out screen. I had the M50 before, and the screen was so useful on it, but I wanted a full frame camera. I knew that, so the M50 wasn't going to work out. And I wanted a camera with the flip out screen, because when you're doing all your self-recording and doing everything yourself, the ability to be able to look over there and make sure everything is properly framed and the audio is working and everything, it's just pretty much an invaluable feature. Now, I know I could with the A7 III go ahead and get a field monitor or an external recorder and have all that information available to me that way, but I just think that's an unnecessary expense. So I've been moving slowly from the A7 III to the EOS R. Of course, the Sony does have great features. I mean, everybody knows the spec sheet on the Sony. It's great 4K with very little to no crop and 24 frames per second. It has 120p at 1080. I mean, it is a great camera, but it doesn't have a flip screen. And for now, I'm going to go ahead and keep all my Sony stuff, because I want to wait and see what they do this year. I think that maybe the A7 IV or the A7S III, if that ever comes out, may have a flip screen. But if they release a couple of full-frame cameras and they don't have flip screens, I'm going to go ahead and sell all my Sony stuff, because to me, this is the kind of tool I need. Like, to me, you have several different kind of tools, okay? Take, for instance, Sony, what they have a photographer tool, which is the A7R4. That's for photography. That's a tool for photographers, landscape and maybe portrait photographers. Then they have a camera for sports photographers, which is the A9 II or A9 III, whatever they're on. So that's a tool for sports photographers, and it works out great for them. They would probably never need a flip screen, nor would anybody with the A7R4 taking landscape or portrait pictures. They would never use a flip screen. So why incorporate a flip screen into those two cameras? Those are tools built for a different set of people. Then they have the A7S III, which is more of a filmmaker's tool. Most serious filmmakers would have all the necessary accessories, like screens and monitors and external recorders and stuff like that, and they'd probably have somebody behind the camera actually operating the camera, you know, as the recording. So that's more of a camera for filmmakers, the A7S II or III, or however you want to look at it. But for me, what I need is a tool for YouTube. And a tool for YouTube pretty much, at least for me, requires a flip screen So I don't know why Sony would be hesitant to add that to the a7 IV, because it's such an outstanding camera and a lot of people do use it for YouTube. They should come out with a camera specifically built for YouTube and making YouTube content. And on that camera, you would have to have a flip screen. The integration of the flip screen on the EOS R is probably the main reason that I got this camera, the one main reason that I continue to stay with this camera. It's just so invaluable to me to have. Now, after the a7 III came out, Sony decided they would start implementing flip-up screens in their camera, at least their APS-C lines. The A6400 and the A6600, maybe one other one, they had flip-up screens, and those are great. And they're actually the more convenient, I think, than the flip-out screen. They're better if you're vlogging and stuff like that, because the screen is right in line with your lens, which makes it nice when you're trying to do stuff like vlog. However, as many have said, if you put a microphone on top, even like the Rode Wireless Go that I'm using here, it blocks most of the screen. You're not able to use the screen the way that is intended to be used. To me, and they do offer, there are several other solutions that you can use with the flip-up screen. Companies come out with like relocation mounts that you can either relocate a cold shoe on the left or on the right or elsewhere on the camera. And I have used several of those relocation mounts, and they've all worked fine. The only problem I have with it is it's just another piece of gear that I had to keep up with. And I know myself well enough to know that I will eventually lose one of those pieces of equipment. Then I'll be out of luck. So I just didn't like the fact that I had to have an extra piece of equipment or depend on an extra piece of equipment to make the flip-up screen work. For the EOS R, there's no other piece of equipment that I need. I just flip the screen out and it's ready to go. But at least Canon or Sony did start to realize that people really wanted a screen to monitor what's going on while they're in front of the camera. And they've tried to address that to a certain extent. But the flip-up screen is just not ideal in my opinion. But I do appreciate the effort. I know there's just a horde of Sony fanboys out there, and I was up to just a few months ago, that are just waiting to downvote this video, give it a big old thumbs down. And trust me, I understand that. I mean, I've been with the a7 III for, I don't know, 2 years now. I don't know exactly when it came out, but I got it shortly after it came out. And it's been my go-to camera since then. Like if Sony came out tomorrow and said, guess what guys, we have the new a7 IV ready. And they said, all we've changed on it is we've added a flip screen. I would buy that camera in a heartbeat. No problem at all. I would get rid of my Canon stuff. The Canon, it serves about 80 to 85% of my needs. Really the only thing that I wish it had is 120 frames per second and 1080p. I really wish it had that. But other than that, I really don't have any wants with this camera. It's been really great so far. Of course, the 4K is, you know, everybody knows the 4K is cropped in way too much, way more than it should be, blah, blah, blah. But I found myself not really missing 4K or really, you know, wanting 4K. It's just really not all that important to the kind of work that I do with it. The most important thing to me, or the most relevant things that I do with the camera, is I take a lot of pictures with it. And to me, there's just something about portraits and photos with the Canon glass and Canon cameras. For some reason, the colors on them, I just prefer them over the Sony. And Sony's come a long ways in their color science, and everybody will tell you that. And you know, all the photos I've taken with my Sony, I really like those too. But there's just something about, I mean, I can't really tell you what it is. I don't know, you know, what it would be called professionally or anything. But there's just something about a picture with a Canon combo that it just appeals to me in the way I like to see pictures. And like I say, it don't have anything to do with Sony. I'm sure Sony takes great pictures. Obviously, many pros use them. Some of my favorite photographers online use them. It's not that Sony is a bad camera, it's just that for me, the Canon just gives the picture and photographs just an extra special quality. For today's video, I want to try something a little bit different. Generally, I write out a whole script and put it on a teleprompter, but after editing so many of those videos, you get tired of doing that kind of stuff. I always sounded like I was Bill Dance narrating a fishing show, so I wanted to change it up a little bit. So today I came out, I just had a few ideas in my head. Again, I have that story about that fellow creator and our dialogue back and forth with each other. And I had a few ideas, and I just came out here and freewheel it as best I can. I'm sure there's going to be a whole bunch of jump cuts. It might be a little bit confusing the way I put it together. But I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have learned something, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you very much.